You want to know something interesting about God? He has this tendency to show up for women, not because they came looking for him, but because he came looking for them. In the Bible, most of the men had to seek God out. They had to climb mountains, build altars, initiate the conversation. But women, God showed up. He appeared to them in their pain, in their rejection, in the wilderness when they were running for their lives. God is, in the truest sense, a girl dad. He sees his daughters, he pursues them, he meets them exactly where they are. And there's this one woman in the Bible whose story proves this more than anyone else. Her name is Hagar. She wasn't Abraham's wife, she was his baby mama. Let me set the scene. Hagar was an Egyptian slave, not a wife, not a handmaid by choice, a slave. She belonged to Sarah, Abraham's wife, and when Sarah couldn't have children, she made a decision that would change Hagar's life forever. She gave Hagar to Abraham. Not asked, gave. Hagar didn't have a choice in this. She was property, and let's be very clear about what this was. Sarah used Hagar's womb to get what she wanted. Abraham slept with her to get their heir. Genesis 16 says that once Hagar realized she was carrying Abraham's son, she began to look at Sarah with contempt. And honestly, can you blame her? She's a slave who was used to produce an heir from a woman who couldn't bear fruit. And now that she's pregnant, she has something Sarah doesn't. But Sarah didn't like that. She starts mistreating Hagar. The text says she dealt harshly with her, so Hagar does the only thing she can do. She runs. Picture this. Hagar is pregnant, alone, running through the wilderness with no resources, no protection, no plan. She's fleeing the only home she knows because staying meant enduring abuse. She stops by a spring of water, exhausted, abandoned, invisible, or so she thought, because that's when the angel of the Lord finds her. She didn't cry out to God. She didn't seek him. God sought her. Genesis 16:8 says, He said, Hagar, servant of Sarai, where have you come from? And where are you going? God called her by name, not slave, not the Egyptian woman, not Abraham's mistake. Hagar. And then God does something Hagar had probably never experienced in her entire life. He sees her. Let me tell you what that means. When Sarah looked at Hagar, she saw a womb, a means to an end, a solution to her infertility problem. When Abraham looked at Hagar, he saw obligation, a vessel to produce his heir, not a woman he chose, but a woman he was given. When society looked at Hagar, they saw a slave, an Egyptian, someone whose name didn't matter, let alone needed to be remembered. But when God looked at Hagar, he saw Hagar. He saw her pain. He saw her exploitation. He saw every moment she had been reduced to her function and never valued for her humanity. He saw the abuse she was fleeing. He saw the fear of her raising a child alone. He saw the shame of her being used by a man who would never choose her. He saw the exhaustion of surviving in a world that treated her as disposable. And he didn't just observe her pain from a distance, he came to her. He called her by name. He asked her questions that acknowledged her story mattered. Where have you come from? That's not a logistical question. That's an invitation to be heard. To say out loud, I come from abuse. I came from being used. I came from a place where I was never seen as fully human. Where are you going? That's not about her destination. That's about her future. And Hagar, honest answer, nowhere. She had no plans, just survival mode. He saw her present pain and he gave her future promise. He told her she was carrying a son and gave her the authority to name him Ishmael, God hears. Because God didn't just see her, He heard her. He validated her suffering. He acknowledged her humanity. He gave her dignity in a world that had stripped it away. To be seen by God when you've been invisible to everyone else, that's not just comfort, that's transformation. And then Hagar does something remarkable. She gives God a name. Genesis 16:13. She gave this name to the Lord who spoke to her. "You are the God who sees me," she said. "I have now seen the one who sees me." Elroy, the God who sees. Hagar is the only person in all of the scripture who names God. Not Abraham, not Moses, not David, a runaway Egyptian slave. Because when you've spent your entire life being invisible, being seen by God changes everything. When she returns, she went through labor. She gave Abraham the heir he'd been waiting for, and it changed nothing about her status. She was still Sarah's slave, still invisible, still used, because that's the thing about being valued for what you can produce instead of who you are. Once you've given them what they wanted, they don't need you anymore. And if you've ever been in a situation where someone wanted access to your body, your work, your resources, your energy, but had no intention of committing to you, honoring you, or choosing you, you know exactly what Hagar felt. Here's the painful truth. Hagar knew she would never be the wife. Sarah was the wife. She had the ring, the title, the covenant, the legacy. Hagar, she had the baby by a man who belonged to someone else. She was the baby mama. And that distinction mattered. Now, you might think that's the end of her story. It's not, because years later, Sarah finally has a baby named Isaac. Sarah demands that Abraham sends Hagar and Ishmael away, and he does. This time it's worse. The water runs out, Ishmael is dying, Hagar can't bear to watch her son die, so she puts him under a bush and walks away weeping. Genesis 21:17 says, God heard the boy crying, and the angel of God called to Hagar from heaven and said to her, "What is the matter, Hagar? Do not be afraid. God has heard the boy crying as he lies there." God didn't wait for her to call out. He heard her, he saw her, he came. He opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water right there, provision she didn't even see on her own. And he reminded her of the promise, "I will make him into a great nation." God didn't just see Hagar once in her pain and then forgot about her. He came back for her, because that's what intentional fathers do. They don't just show up, they keep showing up. Here's what I need every single woman listening to this to understand. God didn't just seek out Hagar. She wasn't the wife. She wasn't part of the covenant family. She wasn't even free. She was the baby mama, the slave, the woman everyone else had used and discarded, but God pursued her anyway. And if you look throughout scripture, this is a pattern. God comes to the women. He appears to Hagar in the wilderness. He appeared to Mary to tell her she would carry the Messiah. He sent an angel to the woman at the tomb to announce the resurrection before he told his disciples. God showed up for them, not because they were more righteous, but because God is intentional about his daughters. Hagar didn't get the life she probably dreamed of. She remained a single mother. She lived in the wilderness. She faced hardship, but she had something that many people spent their entire lives searching for. She knew she was seen by God. And because of that, her son became a great nation. Her legacy didn't come from her status, her freedom, or her position in Abraham's household. It came from an encounter with God who sees. Elroy. And that's the same God that sees you. He pursues you, he calls your name, he provides what you cannot see on your own. And when you encounter God, your story doesn't end in the wilderness. It begins. So wherever you are today, God sees you, he knows your name, he hears your voice, and he is intentional about showing up for you. Not once, again and again, because that's what intentional fathers do.